Hi.
Welcome to Book Pop.
I'm Molly Fish.
And I'm Jamie Anderson. Today, we're going to talk about children's books because it's Children's Book Week.
Yay.
Yay! And we all have our favorite children's books, so.
We do. And you're never too old to love children's books.
But first, what are you reading?
I am reading Tom Lake by Ann Patchett.
Finally.
Did I tell you about this already?
No.
Good. All right. Well, we saved it for the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed so I read a kind of like middling romantasy, which I love a romantasy, but it wasn't like the best one I've ever read.
Yeah.
And I kind of needed to pick me up from that. And it was also such beautiful weather this weekend, so I knew I was going to have a lot of patio time. And I wanted to like summery, but like good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the day that I finished my romantasy, someone came in with a used copy of Tom Lake. And that's kind of like my sign from the universe. I always
it's time.
decide what I'm going to read based on what the used books are at the store, because we get used bestsellers that I know I've been wanting to read, and I'll just kind of like keep an eye out for what is going to be next around when I'm finishing a book. And we happen to get a Tom Lake, so I was like, all right, that's what it's going to be.
It's time.
And I'm halfway through already, and it's lovely. It's cozy. It's nostalgic. I can tell why younger people might not have enjoyed it. It doesn't have very much bite. It's like no bite or edge. It has some little things like kind of talking about like sexism or, you know, some stuff in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's about this mom who's telling her daughters during the pandemic when they're all home together working on their cherry farm in Michigan. She's telling them about this summer she spent in the 80s doing like summer stock theater camp. And she was in a play and dating this now very famous movie star.
Yeah.
They'd never heard this story. So it's very nostalgic. It's looking back at the 80s, a time when, you know, women and people of color were not treated super great in the theater community or at all, ever. And it, you know, very much glosses over a lot of that. And I remember talking, when I hadn't read the book, I remember talking to one of our younger employees, booksellers here, who had read it and was like, I don't get it. Like it really rubbed them the wrong way that it wasn't addressing these topics more. Like I think we kind of live in a world where if you're going to write about a situation like that, you need to address it head on and like talk about what the implications are and dig into it a little more. And it just does not at all. That's not what this story is. It is a mom, this white lady in her, you know, 60s or whatever, 50s, 60s, looking back at something that happened to her in the 80s and being very nostalgic for it in a lot of ways. Now, granted, I've only gotten halfway through. Maybe some shocking twist happens. I don't really think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it is still a beautiful family story, and it's really well written, but it's cozy. And I think we all read now from a more enlightened point of view. And I think younger people maybe aren't just going to be relating to Ann Patchett as a writer and like that generation of white women writers. Whereas like my mom and all of her friends loved it. No notes.
Yeah.
You know, they don't even recognize it as there could be a concern about not addressing some of the topics that are briefly discussed as like a little side thing. So I think that's a really interesting generational divide, just talking to different readers about this book. And I have listened to all of this feedback throughout the 6 months or so that it's been out, and I haven't read it myself. But now that I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, I get both sides. I can enjoy it from like a very nostalgic point of view, and it is lovely, and I love the story. And as like a theater person, I love the theater aspect of it. So I feel like there's a lot of that I'm enjoying. But I also get why I'm like, it's not really interrogating anything.
I think that's a very fair assessment. I had a different experience with it because I listened to it.
Yes.
And the narrator for it was Meryl Streep.
I know we have to talk about this because everyone I know, including you, has listened to this audiobook.
It is just a magical experience. I mean, she could be reading Hippos Go Berserk to me and I would be like, yes.
You'd be like, this is the most beautiful prose I've ever heard.
Yes.
Well, I can hear, since so many people, like almost everyone in my family, a lot of my other friends have listened to it and listened to Meryl Streep. I can like hear Meryl Streep saying it. I can like, I picture her in the cherry fields. Like it's a movie in my mind already where she is the lead character talking about her life. And that's like the version of it. Like that's the version of movie this would be too, right? It's like, it's not going to be challenging. It's going to be just quiet and lovely.
Yes, it is quiet. But I think like, especially in the way that I consumed it, there was a certain portray of the daughters in it and their relationship and the way that they there was conflict that I don't think I would have gotten if I had read it, because Meryl Streep did such a good job with the dynamics of each of the daughters.
Interesting. Maybe I should listen to like a little bit of it and then go back to reading. For me, it's like a time commitment thing.
Yeah.
'Cause I can read much faster than someone can read to me.
Yeah. Yep.
And I need to read a lot. And so I was like, I can't speed up Meryl Streep and put her at 1.3 speed, because then it's not the same experience.
We don't do that to Meryl Streep.
We would never.
No.
So we got to leave her at 1.0. And I was like, I don't know if I have time for 1.0.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll listen to a little bit of it. I really am. I'm getting a lot of the character development of the daughters is really great. And at first I was like, how am I going to keep these daughters straight? And then it instantly, like, she did such a good job building them that I really am enjoying those dynamics as well. If anything, like the present day story, I want to be like, I want to hear more about the farm and like the cherries and the fruit and anyway. So I'm really liking it, of course. Is there, wait, I forgot. I always forget that you already listened to it because it was so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like some crazy twist that's going to happen or no? There's not going to be like, kind of. There's something, but it's not going to be like.
Well, no. Pete's in the back like, don't tell her. Don't tell her.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Speaking of spoilers, I don't think I can talk about this without a little bit of a spoiler. So I finished The Husbands by Holly Gramazio, and I wasn't that thrilled with it. So the premise of the book is that this woman in her 30s comes home from a bachelorette party, and there's a man in her house, and that man is her husband, and she doesn't know how he got there, how they met, like he's a stranger to her. But she's like looking in her phone, and there's pictures of them from the last few years, and like their wedding day and the ring on her finger and pictures in the frame, and like
it's a great premise. Right? It's like, is it magical realism? Is it a thriller, or is it like a coma situation? Like, what are we? I mean, like, it could go a lot of ways.
Yes.
It could go a lot of ways.
Definitely magical realism. But then she has him go back up to the attic where he came out from, and he saw her, or she saw him. And he goes back up there, and then lights flash and another man comes down. So it's this idea that what would you do if getting a new husband was as easy as changing a light bulb?
I love it.
Right? I thought I was going to love it too. But she goes through the husband so fast sometimes. And then she gets one husband who, like, the same thing is happening to him, and they realize that they're having similar experiences, but they were put together. And then they decide to hang out for a little while because they don't want to, put on the whole facade with whatever comes next, whatever spouse comes next. And they go through Christmas and they like each other fine, but then they're like ready to move on. Things get tense. It's just like, okay, they give a date and they're moving on. So this date comes, and he goes back into the attic, and he's gone, and a new husband comes out, but they've exchanged numbers. So they continue like their friendship and communicating past their time together. But then the ending of it is where I kind of struggled. So like she has a new job, and like sometimes her niece and her nephew aren't there because her sister had a different experience and life path, and she looks up her past husbands and sees what they're doing. And then there's one that accidentally goes into the attic that she didn't want to go into the attic. And then she spends a lot of the book chasing him and has an experience with him that it's rather embarrassing. And then she like makes her current husband go into the attic and like forget that life ever happened because everything changes with every new husband, whatever her job is.
Oh. Like
whatever her bank
house
account
and
says. Her house stays the same. It's
Okay.
all about the house in the attic,
right.
which what ended up being a gift from her late aunt that she inherited, her and her sister inherited. At the end of the book, she gets her final husband, and she doesn't communicate with him at all. Like, she hides in the bathroom so she doesn't see him. He goes out for a run, and she, spoiler,
Fast forward now if you don't want to hear the spoiler. I want to hear the spoiler.
lights the house on fire without knowing who she's married to and like what her life is about. And I just felt like it was a lazy ending to the story. But then somebody came in to the store and turned in a used copy of it that they had read. So I had to ask them what they thought about it because I was very disappointed with the ending. And she had made a point that instead of looking at it the way I did, where she just lit everything on fire and was like, this is my life, that instead it was her deciding that she has all the power to change her life, not this attic or whatever husband she ends up with.
Right. It was more like taking back control by freeing herself from this cycle.
Right.
She was breaking the cycle.
So it made me think a little bit more about whether I liked the book or not with that kind of perspective. But it also made me realize how subjective it can be when you are reading a book.
Good point. I feel like I would like this book. It sounds kind of like a rom-com, like a 13 going on 30 kind of rom-com, fish out of water.
Yes.
You know, you're getting thrown around. Or like Midnight Library. It sounds a lot like that, where you're waking up in a new life and you don't really know what to expect and you're kind of walking around. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm glad I read it. I have many perspectives on it now.
I love when readers and like customers who come in and teach us something else about a book or just like share something of how they thought about it. And like you said, it's just a totally different perspective and you're like,
Absolutely.
oh, that kind of unlocks something for me. I feel
Totally.
like that is the beauty of book groups and book clubs in general, and just talking to other people about what you read. It's so different for every
Everybody
person.
thinks differently. And yeah.
And was drawn to different parts and then maybe glossed over things that other people picked up.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
What are you reading next?
Well, I'm almost done with The Familiar.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
Because I was on like a drought for a minute because I was traveling and then I was overstimulated and I couldn't just like sit down and read. And when I did, I was reading the same paragraph over and over and over and over.
I feel that.
So I did take a little hiatus, especially with our jobs. You're like trying to consume so many books. And
I know.
And I needed a break. So I'm back into The Familiar. I wish I was reading it right now.
That's great. It's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Angela Russell, host of the Black Oxygen podcast. So, I am a Black woman that loves Wisconsin. That sounds like an oxymoron, but it is absolutely true. And I know I'm not the only Black person that loves this state. Black Oxygen podcast is all about amplifying the Black voices all throughout Wisconsin and a little bit beyond. I hope that you'll check out the podcast soon and let me know what you think. Take care. Bye.
Hi, Amy Impellizzeri, host and creator of I Know How This Book Ends podcast, and I have a confession to make. The most fun part about doing this podcast is not the celebrity VIP author guest list, although that is really fabulous. The most fun part is when I hear an author guest say, "No one has ever asked me that before." I love that. On this podcast, we're trying to ask the unsanitized questions, the questions no one's ever heard before. I'm trying to surprise the author guests and hopefully surprise the listeners too. Tune in and see if I can surprise you. I Know How This Book Ends. Season 4 available now.
Let's talk about Children's Book Week and the top selling children's books at Lake City Books, as well as our favorites.
Yeah, we do love children's books here at Lake City Books too. And we are right by the Children's Museum, which has always been fun because we get lots of families in here. So we decided to pull what some of our bestsellers are of children's books and share those. We've been open a little over a year now, so we've got some good historical data of what's been selling in the last year. And then we also wanted to pull some of our favorites from childhood, or in Jamie's case, her children's childhood.
The books that are ingrained in my brain because I've read them so many times.
So many times.
Yeah.
So we're going to share a little bit of all those for you today. What do you want to start with?
I say we start with the store.
Yeah, bestsellers.
Yep.
I put them in reverse order this time, like you taught me. When we're doing a top 5, you have to start with number 5.
Build anticipation.
Build anticipation. People want to know what number 1 is. So
yes,
we're learning.
Okay. So number 1, the frog.
Number 5. Actually, it might be number 6 because I think I pulled 6.
Oh gosh, let's count them. We'll get to number 1 and be like, wait.
Oh yeah, see?
3, 4, 5, 6.
Number 6.
Number 6. The Frog and the Toad Storybook Favorites by Arnold Lobel.
And I feel like Frog and Toad is this is a great one. I'm really glad it showed up on our bestsellers list because it's one of my favorites from childhood for sure. They're just really sweet adventures of a frog and a toad that are gentlemanly dressed. And it also is like a iconic queer book and like adopted by the queer community because I think they're thought of as some like OG queer domestication goals. And they're just really sweet, and they go on, they're very relatable. They want to just like read and drink tea, and it's a calming experience to read Frog and Toad.
It's also like a early reader kind of.
Definitely. It's like got good sentences and good like word introduction and illustration, lovely illustration. So it's good for, that early reader age of like 5 to 6.
And this is the 50th anniversary edition, so it has stickers.
Oh my God, it has stickers. I forgot that this version has stickers. It's a really great like compendium of a lot of them. It's like a larger hardcover version. And so, that's one of our best sellers of the first year open. Frog and Toad. Love to see it. And number 5 is The Smart Cookie by Jory John and Pete Oswald. A lot of you who have kids out there right now probably know about The Smart Cookie and the Food Group series by Jory John and Pete Oswald. So it's like the bad seed, the good egg, the
stinky cheese? No, what is
it?
The big cheese.
It was close. That's the newest one. Smart Cookie was the newest one before the big cheese just came out. So I think that's why it's on our bestseller list. We also have a corresponding plushie for all of these food group series. So there's like the sour grape, and we have a grape over there, and the Smart Cookie,
the couch potato,
and there's lots of great lessons in each of these books, which you can tell by the titles of like each of these little food groups has an issue. Maybe it's pride or laziness, or maybe they're doing like a seven sins
thing. Ooh. That's deep.
Ooh, I don't know maybe the Smart Cookie, I don't know what his deal was in terms of a sin. But I think it's just always about sharing and learning and bettering yourself and being a good kid at school. Like, I think they're all usually in like a school setting of like, you're the big cheese because you are winning the races all the time. But sometimes it's not about winning. It's about helping your friends, and you don't need to be the winner all the time, for example. So there's always really good lessons.
Yeah.
We love.
And the illustrations are great.
Series. I know. They're really colorful and fun, and corresponding stuffies. What's not to love? Many a tantrum has been thrown in this story.
That's so true.
About these Smart Cookie stuffies. To all the parents, I'm very sorry.
The Smart Cookie by
Jory John and Pete Oswald.
All right, number 4. Good Night, Buenos Noches by Marti and Salomo. This is a dual language board book, and it's interactive.
It's so cute.
It is so cute.
Yeah, you can like open and close everybody's eyes, all these really cute characters, and you get to learn the names of each animal in the book in both Spanish and English and see it written.
Yeah,
it's
the illustrations are really like they really pop with the dark,
with the colors. And there's also a good morning version of that, Buenos Dias. But the Good Night one has been a bestseller all since we first opened, it's been a really great seller. And we just love that book. And we have a little dual language section here for kids that we love to have a lot of different languages represented in and different age ranges. We have like a couple Harry Potter books in Spanish, for example. So, it's good to get people exposed and kids exposed to other languages.
Yes. Good night. Buenas noches by Martí and Salomo.
Lovely.
Well, this one's very fitting for Wisconsin.
That's right. Number 3 is B is for Badger, a Wisconsin alphabet, written by Kathy Jo Worgan and illustrated by Renee Grafe. Apologies if that's not how you say those, but this is a really great book. It's in our window. It's been in our window probably the whole time we've been open, because we also sell little Badger stuffies, which make a great Wisconsin kid gift.
People will come in off the street for those Badger stuffies.
Yes, and for this book,
And
B
for
is
this
for
book.
Badger. It's a great Wisconsin history book, and it's maybe for a little older of a kid because it kind of has some history, like I is for Ice Age Trail. And then there's a little paragraph about the history of the Ice Age Trail. There's a lovely illustration. And part of that is it's going to maybe go over the head of younger kids. But I think there's a good age range for reading it to a kid, and even the parent gets to learn about Wisconsin. So I know this is a really common gift from Wisconsin, families to outside of Wisconsin families, or maybe families just moving here and they want to learn a little bit about Wisconsin nature or Wisconsin history. So that is B is for Badger, a Wisconsin alphabet. And we love that one. That's one of our favorites here.
Okay, now the little golden book and Taylor Swift craze.
Yeah, this is a bestseller on bestseller lists for outside of children's books. It's blown up.
I'm very impressed by the array of biographies that Little Golden Books has right now.
I know.
But this is by far the best-selling one, Taylor Swift. And what do you really even say about that?
I mean, it's a really cute, accessible biography of Taylor Swift. It's illustrated in a cute Little Golden Book way, which I think people feel like they're kind of learning about her. The biography of a 32-year-old is interesting.
Well, and everybody loves Taylor Swift, from children to adults.
Yeah, this has been purchased by many people for many reasons, not just for children, but I know that it's just a great gift in general and a really beautiful illustration of Taylor.
It is. It's very cute.
So yeah, Taylor Swift's Little Golden Book, can't escape it. But the number 1 best-selling kids book at Lake City Books so far has definitely been Where's Bluey? It is a seek and find book, and anyone who's been in the store knows that we have a whole Bluey situation happening.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of different Bluey, sticker books, story books. They are for board books for super little kids that introduce all the characters. It is a phenomenon, the Bluey phenomenon. However, this is the bestseller, Where's Bluey? It's a really great interactive seek and find. You can look for all the different characters. There's a lot of different settings. So it is kind of one of the best of, so it's great for kids who maybe aren't really into reading yet, but they love Bluey and they want to be able to pick out all the different characters. It's good for comprehension and just visual stimulation and keeping them busy on a car ride, maybe.
Oh, yeah. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Here's Bluey.
Those are Lake City Books' top 6 best-selling children's books.
I couldn't just pick 5.
Fair enough.
I wanted to include Frog and Toad. So I kept it.
Speaking of some of your favorites, what do you got?
Oh, yeah. You want me to do one of mine?
Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, I guess 3rd to 5th grade-ish, I was pretty obsessed with Shel Silverstein's Where the Sidewalk Ends, Falling Up, The Giving Tree, all of his just really silly and fun poetry, and interesting illustrations that were very simple. And it was relatable little stories, but, it felt wise. It felt like you were learning. It wasn't just
What was your favorite poem?
oh, girl.
Sarah, Sylvia, Cynthia Stout.
Stop it.
Would not take the garbage out.
Stop it. You know me too well to expect that I can remember a single poem off the top of my head.
It was hands down. I could recite it from beginning to end. It was absolutely my favorite.
My God.
Now I'd probably butcher it, but
I mean, you got pretty close. I just opened the page to one called Me Stew, and there's a picture of a dude in a big pot, and he's making stew of himself, and I feel like something like that would probably have been one of my favorites. I really liked the funny ones. I read a lot of humor still, but I bring that one up because I wanted to bring up a recent release by Bob Odenkirk, the actor and comedian, who wrote a very similarly silly and illustrated book of poems that reminded me so much of Shel Silverstein, but it's even more like modern and updated and has like inclusive poetry, but it's still silly and fun and for the whole family. And it was illustrated by his daughter, which is the cutest. And the foreword says that he wrote a lot of these like with his family when he was raising them, and they just had this like tradition of writing these silly things together. And I was just blown away, and I love them. And I've read this whole book, and I feel like it's really underappreciated. And maybe anyone who is a fan of Shel Silverstein or was a fan, this is absolutely something you could read today as an adult, or to get for a kid in your life who is starting to read. It is like early reader level. Also, same level as like Shel Silverstein, but it's got fun words like rambunctious or made up characters like gooby. You know, it's like really fun and sweet, and the illustrations are beautiful. So this book by Bob Odenkirk is called Zillet, Zilot, and Other Important Rhymes. Zillet is weird to pronounce, but...
And you can find it in the store right next to Shel Silverstein.
That's true. I put them together, hoping to help people draw that comparison. But it's just been a really... I just opened one called Worry Juice, which was one of my favorites. And it's like, I've been using up my worry juice. The tank is running low. If I keep gushing over little things, I'll have no juice left to show. This is like, it keeps going, but this is what I'm talking about. It is so good for adults.
Feel it in your soul.
Yeah. I just am obsessed with all of these. So Zillet by Bob Odenkirk, absolutely wonderful new release of silly little poems and other important rhymes, illustrated by his daughter, Erin Odenkirk.
Okay, on the level of silliness, one of my favorites as a child was Amelia Bedelia by Peggy Parrish, pictures by Fritz Sabel. I loved that she took things so literally, the character of Amelia Bedelia, and she just wrecked whatever task she had to do, but she was doing what she thought she was supposed to do. So I loved just the silliness of the character and taking things so at face value.
Did you see the recent, I think it was like one of the libraries, I don't know if it was Milwaukee Public Library, but like one of the library Instagram accounts made a little Amelia Bedelia spoof where it was like one of the librarians dressed up like Amelia Bedelia, and then they told her to do things at the library, like, and then she did Amelia Bedelia style. It's so cute. We got to look it up.
Yes.
Where she screws them all up, and she's wearing like her little...
The bonnet.
Yeah, her little bonnet.
Dress and little Mary Jane's. Yes.
I wish I remembered which library did that so we could give them a shout out, but maybe we can like forward it, link it on our page, because it was a really cute video.
Okay, and then one that I read to my children more times than I can count is The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. Is this one the dual language?
That is the dual language
one. Oh, cute. But this is also the board book edition, so it has like the fruit cutouts and everything, and you can see how the caterpillar ate his way through all the food. But the illustrations in this have always been striking to me.
Yeah, Eric Carle's style is so good. And the story in general, but I mean, yeah, what a classic. And yeah, we have a dual language version of that too. So
yeah.
Good shout out.
Yep.
And my last ones are another throwback to my childhood plus new release. So Hippos Go Berserk by Sandra Boynton. Everybody knows and loves Sandra Boynton. I mean, she's a classic.
I read this one to my kids so many times.
Exactly. And all of her characters with their big eyes and the illustrations are just so memorable.
Yeah.
And you can see a Sandra Boynton book from a mile away. Like,
yeah,
I follow her on Instagram and she has like cartoons and stuff going on. So Hippos Go Berserk is one of my favorites. And my mom told me similar. I think you and my mom bonded about this because
we both started reciting it.
Yeah. They started reciting it to each other. Like weirdos. Just kidding. But it was very cute. And I didn't have it memorized, but I'm not a mom. So
Yeah, you didn't have to read it a million times.
I had it read to me.
Yep.
But I absolutely loved it. And I love the silliness of these hippos. And I always loved hippos. Remember the hippos in Fantasia? Did you watch Fantasia, the Disney thing?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I
The
know.
ballerina hippos?
Yep.
They were my favorite. I was obsessed with those ballerina hippos. But yeah, so this is a classic. And then Sandra Boynton just came out with an updated version, like literally last year, called Hippos Remain Calm, which I just about died laughing when I first saw this.
There is a page in it where she's like, the phone rings, but the hippos remain calm, which was so relatable.
It hit so hard. It was like the perfect post-pandemic meditation that we need. I mean, we don't need to go berserk anymore.
There's a
like
balance.
A grown-up version, right? Of hippos go berserk. It's like, no, hippos remain calm. We don't need to go berserk. Even though there's still stuff going on to them, like a big party happening all around them. They remain calm.
Yeah.
But it's got a really great updated for modern day, like the phone ringing and the...
when people show up at the door and hippos remain calm.
Yep. So we love it. We love Sandra Boynton in general.
We have some plushies of some of her characters in the store as well.
Do we?
Yeah. Like the pajama guy.
Oh, the pajama guy. Yeah. Guess who picked that out for the store? My mom.
Yeah.
That's her favorite guy that we have, the pajama bear guy. He is so cute.
And then an honorable mention that we don't have in the store, but is on order, is The Little Mouse, The Red Ripe Strawberry, and the Big Hungry Bear, which is one that I read so many times as a child by myself because it's a really early reader kind of version. But the narrator in it, his whole thing is trying to trick the mouse to split the strawberry with him by convincing him that there's this big hungry bear that's going to get the whole thing. So the only way that they can enjoy it is if he splits it in half and they both get a piece, which I thought was so clever as a child. It's like, oh my gosh, he just wanted some strawberry.
It's a con artist story.
It's a con artist story. It was, yeah, definitely hands down my favorite.
Cute.
Yeah.
I can't remember what my number one favorite was that I read over and over and over again. Maybe it was Madeline with the two girls all in a row, and then she gets appendicitis and
trauma.
I liked the Frenchness of it. I think. There's the Eiffel Tower in the background all the time.
Yeah.
So Madeline was a big one. Babar. I liked Babar and the elephants. George and Martha. More hippos.
Oh, I love George and Martha.
See, I was really into just the big animals, I guess, like hippos and elephants.
All right. Those were some of our favorite children's books, some of our best-selling children's books. Come to the store and check them out.
Let us know what some of your favorite children's books are. Maybe we have them in the store. Maybe we'll get them in the store.
Email us at bookpoppodcast@gmail.com.
Are you debuting the email right now?
I am.
Have we never talked about that? We have an email.
We have an email.
And again, that email is
bookpoppodcast@gmail.com.
Got it.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.